Hey, welcome everyone. Thanks so much for joining me. As you can see, we're here to talk about the Nikon 400mm f2.8 TC-S. Whole bunch of extra letters on there probably, but anyway, an amazing wildlife lens, one that I've certainly used like crazy. I absolutely love it. Definitely a pricey one, as many of you know. But what I want to talk about with this lens is, we're not going to get too much in the specs of it. As you know, it's a big, heavy lens. It is built like a tank. They built it really strong. In fact, just the other day, I fell with it, and I don't know if you can see here in that dent and that scratch right there. And actually, if I show the lens mount, you might be able to see there's a little bit of a dent there. Doesn't really show. Anyway, still works great. Still working just fine. Just a little snug when I mount it on there, but it works great. And then in my opinion, one of the best parts of this lens, let's listen. That satisfying thunk, that teleconverter switch right there. Switching that TC in and out is such a joy to do when you're out in the field. So let's talk about this lens. I've had this lens for a little over 3 years. In that period of time, I've shot 28 different lenses. Some of them I don't have anymore. Obviously, I'm not crazy. I don't have 28 lenses with me all the time, but different lenses I've gone through in the past 3 years. So there's some stats on it. Ready? These are just the photos I've shared. So I thought this was more interesting because it means these are the photos I deemed worthy of sharing, like some of the better shots over the past 3 years. And so within those images that I've shared, which were 1,304 images shared, 438 of them were shot with this lens. So 35%, or 34, I guess, to be precise, of the total number of images I've shared out of 28 lenses were shot with this particular lens. So I'd say a pretty decent percentage, and I would guess, I'm pretty sure I didn't look at this, but I'm pretty sure it's probably the highest percentage. Actually, that's probably wrong. I think my 100 to 400 is probably the highest percentage, but this has got to be really close. Within those, 263 shot at 400mm, so without that teleconverter engaged. So 60% of all the images I shot and shared with this lens were without the teleconverter switched in. 175 of them shot at 560mm. So that just gives you a little bit of an idea of how I use this lens. And the biggest thing I think that's kind of interesting for me, as many of you know, I love shooting small in frame. Wider focal lengths, showing off the habitat, stuff like that. It's not to say you can't do small in frame with this lens. You certainly can, and I'll show some examples in a bit that we're going to talk about. But I've had sort of a renewed love of this lens. Within my wildlife photography path in the past couple of years, I've just been gravitating more towards zoom lenses, wider lenses, less feeling stuck on a prime, feeling stuck at 500 or 400mm or 560. Not that you're ever stuck at that, because you can always flip that teleconverter. But there's a limitation with that lens. Where this lens excels is, you know, sharpness, speed, accuracy, shallow depth of field. Like all those things, it just does an amazing job, and probably better than almost any other lens I own. But it is still a 400mm prime, and so you can't go any wider than that. But in any case, what I started realizing more recently is I had kind of stopped using the lens. I wasn't shooting it that much, and so I started concentrating on shooting it again, and boy, I love it again. Like I feel like I've fallen in love with this lens again, and so I want to show some examples and talk about where this lens excels and what it does that I love about it. So obviously low light, like having that fast 2.8 aperture is really, really good in low light. And here's some examples. So everything you're going to see here is handheld. This one, I'm pretty sure was handheld, although I may have been on a ground pod, but I'm pretty sure, because all I got to do is I just have to remember these things. I can't sort of there's no stats that tell me if I was on a tripod or a monopod or anything like that, right? Although I'm never on a tripod. Anyway, 1/6 of a second. So that's really amazing stuff. This one was handheld for sure, 40th of a second. And so you can see it really lets you get down into those low shutter speeds. And I'll go back real quick here and just zoom in for you guys so you can really get a sense of 100% zoom, what that sharpness is like out of this lens, and just kind of the quality of everything. That one, you can see there was a little bit of movement from the subject. So the bill was sharp, but the head was moving. the body was sharp, so that's why the head and eye aren't that tack sharp. But the rest of the bird that wasn't moving, you can see, in fact, like look at the legs, are crazy sharp. So that's the one downside of those slower shutter speeds sometimes, right? But when the bird is holding still like this, even 1/60th of a second is doing a great job. So low light, lower shutter speeds, the stabilization is great. It is, like, that is the one other thing, is like, it is a big chunky lens and it looks bigger when it has the lens hood on it. But even with the Z9, I find it very hand holdable. I really do. It's, I don't want to sit here all day holding it like that, but it's balanced well and it just fits on that Z9 or a Z8 or even the Z6 III. I've shot it. It feels better balanced to me with the Z9, but you know, it works great with all those other cameras. But I hand hold it pretty much exclusively. So yeah, low light stuff. And you can just see the rendering. The backgrounds just sort of melt away. And all of these are really concentrated on a further away background, but I'm going to show you some where it works on that closer background and that sort of thing. And then here's another great example of that low light photography, well after sunset, getting into that dusk hour. That is just a street light in the background, not the moon. But it works wonderful for that stuff. When else does it work? For action. It works amazing with birds in flight. So you can see I got this Lasian albatross flying right at you. There's another one out further away, smaller in frame. Northern gannet flying right in. And you can see, again, if I zoom in here, really good sharpness on this, which is what you would expect, you know, just incredible detail and rendering. Even smaller in frame stuff, though, it works with birds in flight like that. It stays sharp. And here's a great example of one of the things I really love about this lens, which is the background still has some fall off to it, right? Like you can see even smaller in frame here at 560mm. This bird was really far away, this red-tailed tropic bird, but that background is still nice and blurry. We got a great sense of depth that comes up to the in-focus cliff that that bird's about to land on. And so it works wonderful for this stuff. Shooting into the sun, it's got excellent clarity and contrast, and you still get rich colors without that much of a lens flare as well. So action is great with this lens. It really shines that way. But where else does it shine? Well, making those portraits, you know? So getting those tight detailed portraits, and I think most of what you're going to see here is at 400mm. I'm going to save more of the 560 stuff for the end, but there might be some of those mixed in. And again, if I want to zoom in here and show clarity, like look at that. I mean, the sharpness and clarity on that is incredible. Again, this is the only way you can really appreciate it though, right? So shot on the Z9, so we've got the 40, or I forget what the resolution is on the Z9. I think it's 40 megapixels, something like that. So we've got a high resolution sensor here that we're zoomed into at 100%. And so now we can really see the detail. You know, but what I want to add to that is when I view the image as a whole here, does that incredible fine detail matter? Not really. I can't see it here, and this is viewing it for me on a 27-inch monitor. I certainly can't see it when I share on Instagram. So how well does that translate into the final image? Those sharpness detail things, not really. It's fun, for sure. It's fun to look in and see all the little texture on the horns and the texture in the eye and the fur and all that. But what's more important to me than the sharpness and detail of this lens is the rendering of the depth, the background, that fall off, that super shallow depth of field look that you get, and the compression you get with it, right? And that is where this lens shines. And that's something you can see in that final photo, no matter what you're viewing it on, whether I'm viewing it on a large screen or on a small screen. So, you know, yes, it's sharp, yes, it's detailed, but it's that look of the lens. And the look to me is more of the shallow depth of field. So I love the lens for that. But then we can also start getting smaller in frame, right? And you can do small in frame on this. And again, this is where it excels, right? A slower aperture lens here, if I was using my 100 to 400 and stuck at 5.6, this background is not going to look quite that dreamy. It's not going to look bad. I had some distance there, but it's not going to look as dreamy, flat out, hands down. There's nothing I can do in the field to make this shot look better with a 100 to 400 with a minimum aperture of 5.6 versus this 2.8. That's it. That's all there is to say, right? That 2.8 lens, when you're in the forest and you're trying to make your subject pop out and you're getting some depth there, going smaller in frame, this lens excels, you know? Something like this out in a wide open field where you do have a little bit more distance, you can get away with other lenses. But again, this just gives that extra dreamy look to it. That's why I love this lens, you know, I really do. It does some great stuff with that. Here with this prairie dog and a bison in the background, really isolating and going with that shallow depth of field. Here's a perfect example of small in frame, beautiful foreground blur, really far background distance. Again, I think a slower aperture lens would do just fine here and actually kind of look similar because of the distances that were in play here, but they're not going to be quite as dreamy, right? So it is that extra little bit, and that's what you're paying for, folks, right? And so for anybody that doesn't have this lens right now and you're thinking about it, I know the cost is astronomical. It's really expensive. So what do you really get out of it in the end? To me, my opinion is you just get that little extra dreamy look to things. That's really what you get out of that lens. I can do everything else and make a very similar image to this with my 100 to 400, which costs a fraction of the cost. I can do it with the 400 4.5 that we have. Again, a fraction of the cost. I can do it with the 28 to 400 that we have and still get a beautiful look here. There would still be a blurred foreground like this and a very blurred background because of the distances at play here. So all those other 400mm options would do a great job here, but the 400 to 8 gives you that extra little dreamy look, that extra blur. Here's where it shines, where those other lenses don't. And that's why I brought some of these images up to show examples of where this lens really does well. And that's small in frame when you don't have quite the same distances back there. This allowed me, I mean, this background, these trees are decently far away. I would have gotten some decent separation by using a 100 to 400 or the 400 4.5. But this 2.8 really rendered that stuff kind of more dreamy, in this case more like eerie back there. And again, let's zoom in and look. We got plenty of sharp details there. I was shooting through a lot of this mist that you can see hanging on the water there, so it's not exactly as detailed as you would hope at that distance. But here we go, some more small in frame stuff. And again, I wanted to show and prove you can do really nice small in frame stuff with a 400mm lens. Here's one of my favorite examples of that. And this is one I just want to point out though, where I went the opposite. I was not trying to take advantage of that shallow 2.8 depth of field, right? I actually closed down to f10 because I wanted those mountains to have a little bit more context in the background. I didn't want them to just be completely blurred out and dreamy back there. So sometimes, even when you have the really fast aperture lens, you don't always want to shoot it wide open. And this is an example of that. But the next thing we can do with this lens, and this is the beauty of it, is that built-in teleconverter. And I've done a video, I've shared about how you can actually just shoot this at 400 to 8, and I'll link to it in the description here. You can shoot it at 400 to 8 and shoot it at 560 and just crop the 400 to 8 version in and enlarge it, and it will look basically identical to the 560. So in reality, there is almost no reason to shoot the teleconverter in other than gaining resolution. You're not gaining a more blurred background. You're not gaining more, well, I guess you're technically gaining more detail, right? I guess that's what you're gaining, is just a little bit more detail. But you're not getting like a more blurred background or anything like that. And if anything, you're sacrificing a stop of light to get that additional detail. So it's silly knowing that, how much I still use that teleconverter. I still flip it in all the time. It's satisfying, and it's nice sometimes to just compose in the field exactly what you want. But this is when you can get those really close, almost 600 f4 looking portraits, because we're at 560 f4, and it gets you really close there. And again, just listen to that. Come on, guys. It's so satisfying. I do love it. It sounds stupid, but it is fun. And the other thing is, like, the nice part about it and where it is when you have your camera mounted, you actually just flick it with your finger. You don't even have to take your eye out of the viewfinder. Once you learn where it is, it's an easy reach out to get, and it changes quite easily. These beautiful, just clean, tight, smooth foreground, smooth background portraits work wonderful with this. But this is where it really shines, guys. So sure, this is going to look great with almost any 400mm. I could have shot this with a 28 to 400 at f8, and this background would look great. And in fact, I've shared some videos recently with that lens that show how when you're on a beach, when you're low, the background just melts away. It's actually hard to tell the difference. And in fact, check out where I compare all the 400mm, and that's where you really kind of see that. But in situations like this, where I have a marsh grass that's not too far behind the subject, this is where this lens shines. It really blurs that out, gives me that separation, that depth, that cleanliness, you know? And so again, we're back on an open space, but we get that dreamy look, really narrow focal plane with isolated bird and everything like that. So yeah, I love the lens. I'm trying to shoot it more again. It works in all kinds of situations. It truly is probably the best, I would say, portrait, like wildlife portrait lens I own. And I love that I can still do stuff like this, with this smaller in frame, a little bit more context, but still get that depth to it, which is really nice. And you can see some images like this where you shoot things really far away, but you get to enlarge them, or something like this where we just get to really show off that scenery. So that's my take on this lens, guys. That's really all I wanted to share about it. Is I do love the lens. I have sort of a renewed appreciation for it. And then the last thing I'll add as far as like the actual functionality and use of the lens is, for me, all these extra buttons and dials and everything on it. And so I think there's actually, let's see, we have the buttons around here that we can use. We have this function button, the memory set I use all the time. There's a function button on this side I don't use at all. And then you have this ring that spins separate. Here's our focus ring. You have this ring that you can program, and then you have this this sort of dial right here that goes just like a toggle back and forth that you can program as well. I don't use any of those because when I'm in the field, I'm often in weird positions. It's either A, hard to get to those, or B, I accidentally hit them. And so for me, I don't use any of those extra bells and whistles. I basically just shoot the lens as is, flip that teleconverter in and out, and that's pretty much it for me with the lens. So thanks so much for joining me on this one. I hope you got some understanding of how I use that lens and where I find its strengths and weaknesses. There aren't really any weaknesses other than being stuck at 400mm. But other than that, an amazing lens. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys on the next one.